Missed an episode of your favorite podcast? Choose from over a decade of content in our archives, not just the latest episode. All free at gcnlive.com.
This is your call to action. Get prepared, America. Economy, survival, energy, disasters. This is USAPrepares.com. Informative radio, educational radio. Interact now by emailing instructor@USAPrepares.com or text at 434-390-7953. Class, please take your seats. Now, your instructor, Vincent Finelli.
Watch the greenbacks tumble.
You dialed it correctly to USA Prepares. And we're delighted you're here. We broadcast 2 hours a day, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. through 11 a.m. Central Time. And if you'd like to call us, 866-582-9933, 866-582-9933. If you'd like to take us with you as you travel, we have a listen line. You can bring us along for the ride. 605-477-3249, 605-477-3249. John's engineering the broadcast in Minnesota. Captain John Regan's with us. Welcome, Captain John Regan.
Good morning, Vincent.
Good morning, John. Boy, we had a lot on our schedule for yesterday and today, and I went to the financialstateoftheunion.com. I'm at the news tab. I'm ready. But I wanted to share a short story with you. About in 2005, when we were building our farmhouse, I decided to get a hot water heater that I thought would last a long time. So I went to Lowe's, and they had a really neat concept. It was a hot water heater that was about 33% more expensive than the typical hot water heater, but it came with a lifetime warranty. So I bought two of them. I bought a 50-gallon for one end of the farmhouse and an 80-gallon for the other, both with a lifetime warranty, manufactured by Whirlpool. Yesterday, I spent some time diagnosing a leak that we had on the 80-gallon hot water heater. So it said, don't call the store, call this number, this toll-free number. So I called the toll-free number, and I talked to a representative from A.O. Smith. That's a water heater company. Well, they must have purchased Whirlpool. And we talked about the leak we had, and he said, okay, we're going to give you an RMA, Return Merchandise Authorization, and bring that to Lowe's, and they'll work it out with you. The only problem is that you can't buy an 80-gallon water heater from Lowe's anymore. And the reason we have an 80-gallon hot water heater is because we need one. I'd much rather have spent less on a 40-gallon water heater, but it would not do the job. And if you look at the literature, when you go to buy one, they say, here's the number of people you have in the house, and here's how you size your hot water heater. Well, the federal government has gotten involved in the hot water heater business. And in 2015, they decided that 80-gallon hot water heaters really needed to have more efficiency. Bottom line is, if you stick a heating element into a tank of water and you insulate it, it's really hard to improve that efficiency if you already have foam insulation on it, which ours has. So A.O. Smith and many of the other manufacturers have given up on the 80-gallon hot water heater business. What they've done is, in the traditional tank sense, a tank with two elements in it. What they've done, in order to meet the federal regulations, they have to put a heat pump on top of an 80-gallon water heater that's above 55 gallons, a heat pump. That makes the hot water heater taller. And because of the requirements, the new hot water heaters are taller and larger in diameter. So if you had a tight space for your old hot water heater, it may not fit when you go to replace it because of the new federal regulations. The hot water heaters that were about $500, that 80-gallon unit, is now about $2,000 or more. And because it has a heat pump in it, this heat pump is like a little air conditioner on top of the hot water heater, and it grabs the surrounding heat in the room where it's located. Now, for those of you who have your hot water heaters in a closet, you don't have enough room to run this new 80-gallon hot water heater because it needs about 1,000 cubic feet, literally 1,000 cubic feet of airspace in order to grab the heat out of that room to transfer that heat to the hot water. And while it's doing that, it's cooling off the room. So if you like the room temperature the way it is, where your hot water heater is, it will be colder if you get one of these new hybrid hot water heaters for around $2,000. 4 times the price that it used to cost. So if you think Barry and the Bandits have been good to you, that's just one more example of the misery they've caused all of us. So that electric hot water heater is not what you think under the new regulations. So here's my problem, and I don't have a solution yet. I have a leaking hot water heater. I need to replace it. And Lowe's does not have an 80-gallon hot water heater. That is not one of these new hybrid jobs. So it would cost me, I guess, about $1,500 to replace my lifetime warranty hot water heater with the new improved model that I don't want. 4 times the price. And the new ones are so heavy that you have to have pretty much specialized equipment to get it down the basement stairs because it's so heavy. They make a special conveyance tool, maybe a special hand truck to handle these things. Or you get, several guys to get it down the stairs for you, with you. And that doesn't include the cost of installation. Now, naturally, I would be doing that by myself. But if you had this problem and you were not able to install it yourself, either because you don't have the knowledge at the time, or the weight of it is too heavy and you can't get enough people to help you, you're probably looking at maybe $1,000 of installation on top of the extra cost of the hot water heater with the lifetime warranty. So who has failed us? Well, the federal government, in their infinite wisdom. Lowe's, because now they don't have a hot water heater that they can't say, hey, Vinny, here, no problem. We're so sorry you had this problem. We're so sorry that you've got water on the floor. We're so sorry that you had to disconnect it, bring it to the store, and then pick this one up and bring it back and get it down into its location for installation. And then hook it up. Because it's literally a day of my time. Literally, at the minimum. We're so sorry. They can't even do that. Because they don't have a replacement model. They do not have a lifetime warranty model. When I bought it, I thought, this is great. I'm going to buy a water heater and I'll never have to pay for another one again. That's not the case, because they don't have one. The best one that they have, the closest one, is 5/8 the size, 50 gallons. And it comes complete with a 12-year warranty. Not lifetime. They can't replace like for like as they led me to believe would happen. They can't. Home Depot has an 80-gallon made by Westinghouse, stainless steel. It's about $1,150. But that's Home Depot. That's not Lowe's. So I'll continue to tell you the saga of how we're going to fix this as it develops. John, it's an outrage. You know, a warranty is only as good as the company that is warrantying it. Like Craftsman tools. You know, lifetime warranty. Anybody that bought them thought, wow, they're guaranteed for life. Don't have to worry about it. But that's only as long as Sears is around. And how long is Sears going to be around? So when you think that you have a lifetime warranty on something, think it through. And don't let what happened to me happen to you. So I paid extra for something that I don't have. By the way, I talked with the representative from A.O. Smith. How long do hot water heaters last? 12 to 14 years. 12 to 14 years. They know this. And I said, so what's the difference between the new 6-year warranted hot water heater that you guys make and the new 12-year warranted hot water heater that you guys make? The difference is the warranty. The tanks are the same. The insulation's the same. You might have a slightly different heating element, and maybe you do have a different insulation. But the tank is the same. The difference is the warranty. You're paying more to avoid some of the risk of that thing leaking. And if you want to see some outrageous comments, type in Whirlpool hot water heaters, opinions. And then go to Consumer Reports or the Consumer Reviews type websites. You won't believe how poorly people think of Whirlpool hot water heaters. I don't think they deserve it all. I don't think they deserve all these negative bashes that they get. But I do believe that they deserve some of them. So what do we do? Who do we trust? It's really hard to figure it out. Captain John Regan and I will be right back. Captain John Regan's with us. Hey, John, I'm sorry I went into that rant about hot water heaters and my experience being left in a situation where I can't figure out what to do, and there's no really good solution. Do you have any comments on that?
No, but I had an experience right before Christmas where we ended up having to buy something unexpectedly. In 1974, Becky's mother bought a toaster oven for Becky's grandmother. And I believe it was supposed to be a Christmas present, and she died in between there. So, long story short, Becky ended up with it. And that toaster oven finally died on us, and I had to go out and get a new one. And the old one was a GE. Of course, what they made in the 70s was quite different than what gets made today in China. But, you know, that you don't realize how used you get to something. That toaster oven was in our house nearly twice as long as I had my dad in my life. And, of course, now I got a new one that has more complicated controls. They even recommend you unplug it in between, because I think the way all those controls are, it'd be very easy to leave the toaster oven on and burn down your house.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're absolutely right. And appliances used to last a really, really long time. Nobody in the 1950s would buy a Toastmaster or a General Electric toaster expecting that it would wear out in 3 years. Nobody would do that. As a matter of fact, they even had appliance repair people. So if your toaster, you know, probably one of the most uncomplicated pieces of machinery in your kitchen, would fail. You could bring it to an appliance repair shop and they would fix it for you. I remember seeing those in the 1960s. Appliance repair shops. You have to show me one today because I haven't seen one in decades. And what do you do with your old toaster?
Progress.
What do you do with an old toaster? Obviously, you throw it away, right? You throw them away. So how many toasters have filled and littered our landfills? And why? Why do we allow these things to be made when we know that we're going to just throw them away? Who fixes a television today? Nobody. Who fixes a radio? Nobody. We're getting to the point where we don't even fix tractors. I was told by a tractor dealer that when a Deutz tractor has a transmission problem, it's $15,000 to fix it. So what they do is they sell these things for scrap. So you have a transmission problem on a 8,000-pound tractor, and you just sell it for scrap because that gear or the bearings or the shafts or the whatever it is, the synchros in the transmission have failed. For whatever reason, you just throw the tractor away. It gets melted down. It's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It's foreign to me. I don't understand that. And John, when I bought a toaster, I bought my mom a toaster years ago. I went on the internet and I found a Star brand, S-T-A-R, toaster. It's commercial, a commercial toaster. Unfortunately, it was 240 volts, kind of like a 4-slice toaster that a restaurant would use. It weighs 5 times as much as a current toaster. It's made in the United States. Used, it was about $90-something with shipping. Used. A new one at the time was $660. Now we're talking about a toaster. This thing doesn't have any sensors that say, you know what? I know that this is a bagel. I know that this is a muffin. I know that this is, just sliced bread. I know what's going in here. Has no idea. It's simple. You just push down this lever, and there's a knob that sets the desired toasting time. But that's it. But I know that I'm not going to have to buy another one. But $90 for a toaster, used, is crazy. But I wanted one that wouldn't burn the house down. And that's why I bought it. We'll be right back. Yep, and Captain John Regan. John, where do you want to start?
Well, we got quite a few for hour number 1 today, unseen changes. And this is one of those things I've been talking about, demographics. It's an important part of the picture. It gets to be, I think, a little tougher to get that picture in your mind without, having a visual. So do the best you can. Spain's population is shrinking at 72 people a day. So this happens a bit in slow motion, so you don't really notice what's going on. But 72 people a day, you multiply that times 365 days, and that's a number of thousands. But still, in a country, you don't really notice that so much. But it starts building up and making a big difference, which is what the second article talks about, and the consequences. Fertility rates keep dropping, and it's going to hit the economy hard. Demographics is something that you can't fix easily. It's all about having babies, and you just don't decide to, we're going to have a baby next week. It takes time, costs money, there's a commitment. And with this, we were already in a period where, like I say, except for probably about half a dozen Muslim countries, the rest of the world was in a negative replacement rate. It takes about 2.2 children per female in order to have a stable population. When you drop below that, then your population is going to decline. You don't see it right away because the people that you do all your activity with, whether it's at work or your recreation, you don't see the changes there so much, at least until you get into your upper years and you start having meetings, just finding out who's still around. But without those young people there, it hits things like Social Security and Medicare hard, because that Ponzi scheme is dependent on more young people in order to pay for the old people. Companies have a hard time because once people get into those upper years, there's a lot of things that they don't routinely buy, and they expect the younger people to start buying those as they're raising their families and buying houses and all of that. So it's not on a good trend. It can't be fixed quickly, and if you think this is going to turn around and change, over the next 10 or 15 years, it just can't. Vincent?
John, I'm looking at the chart. I clicked on the link, of course, and I'm looking at the website, and it says fertility rates keep dropping, and it's going to hit the economy hard. It's from the Visual Capitalist, December 29th, 2016. The website is affluentinvestor.com, and I'm looking at the fertility rate graph. And the bottom line is that it says since the 1960s, the total global fertility rates have been cut in half. Now, there are people who think that there are too many of us, and they want us they want less of us to be around, breathing their air, as they would probably think, eating their food, using their fuel, their energy, and so forth. It seems like it's been accomplished, John. The fertility rate's been cut in half globally.
And there's many factors in that, too. You've got abortion as a factor. You have birth control as a factor. You've got the economy as a factor. And you add it all up, and, then you add in the toxins and the malnutrition going on there. It's a recipe for economic disaster.
Yeah, and one of the approaches to fix this economic disaster has been implemented in the United States a long time ago, and that was planned obsolescence. So that toaster oven that served you so well for so many years was replaced with another one. Would you say that the one that you bought is as good as a replacement as the one that it was replacing?
On the surface, it probably looks better, but you consider 1974 to 2016. I just don't think that this one is going to make it that long. And in fact, if it makes it 5 or even 10 years, it would probably be doing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and just, class, just look at your coffee makers. How many of you have these electric coffee makers? How long do they last? Do any of you have a coffee maker that you use on a regular basis that is 10 years old? I doubt it. And if you look at a coffee maker, and if you go to the Chinese factory outlet and you look at the box that has a new coffee maker in it, with the carafe, the glass carafe, it is just a couple dollars more than the price of a replacement carafe. How's that possible? How is it possible that they can make the machine with the carafe for a couple and sell it for just a couple dollars more than a plain old carafe that you would use if you break yours? Yep. So I'm convinced that the quality of appliances has gone down way down. It used to be that if you bought a refrigerator, heck, that thing would last 30 years, maybe 40, maybe 50. I don't think that's the case anymore. John, what's next?
Singapore goes beast. And what's going on is Singapore is going to record the iris scans of its citizens and permanent residents as an additional personal identifier. Isn't that sweet?
So with a gun to their heads, they will have their iris image collected, stored, and used for who knows what purposes, and probably ultimately nefarious purposes. John, have you seen on Netflix a series called Colony? Colony?
No, I haven't.
Okay. I started watching parts of it, and people are forced to live in a zone, a physical zone that they can't seem to get out of. And there's a database, it's called a Rolodex, and it has information on all of them. Information on all of the people. Anything you want to know about them. It's kind of like where we're going with Facebook and Twitter and the cloud and the IRS and the federal government and the state government and medical information. Put all that together and more. Height, weight, IQ, skills, training, diseases, maladies. Put it all together and it's all there. Boy, I really don't like it. I really don't like it. And if you want to watch something that will really end up be frightening to you, if you think about it, Colony. It's on Netflix. What's next, John?
This one disturbs me quite a bit. First time since World War II.
Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. It just occurred to me. I did not let the state of Missouri get an image of my iris. Now, they wanted to. They wanted to do that when I renewed my license. My Missouri state license to operate an automobile. And they had this special camera. And I said, wow. And I started looking at the camera and looking all around it. And the lady was really annoyed with me. I said, you can't do that. I said, okay. Right. So I took a picture of the camera. So you can't do that. I said, why? Is there a sign that says I can't take a picture of the camera? So I took a picture of the camera that took a picture of me from my driver's license photo. And every time she said, okay, ready, set, I closed my eyes. She took my picture multiple times. And my picture, none of the ones that she was able to take, have my eyes open. And so you can do that, class. You can do that. You can close your eyes. But I explained to her it was just the thought of that flash going off. Just the thought made me wince, wrinkle my face, and my eyes were closed. Couldn't help it. Okay, sorry for interrupting.
Anyway, for the first time since World War II, no U.S. carriers are deployed anywhere in the world. And you stop and think, back in early December 1941, all of our battleships were in port. That didn't work out too well.
Nope. Well, that was the start of World War II, when we were attacked by Japan. That got us in the fight. And many people have been thinking, is Barry trying to get us into a fight? He's poking at the bear, right? He's poking at Putin. And if you, John, if you look at some of the images that are on the internet of Barry and Vladimir Putin, Barry looks, he's got these really strange facial expressions. Putin looks deliberate. He looks sincere. He looks engaged. He looks intelligent. And our guy looks like, anybody see my golf ball? Are we going on vacation now? Can we go now? Speaking of Barry and the vacations, $32,877 a day for 8 years. Barry and his vacations. $96 million. StateOfTheUnion.com. We're at the news tab. John Regan, you said for the first time since World War II, no U.S. carriers are deployed anywhere in the world. How significant do you think that is?
Well, it's disturbing on several levels. The carriers project our power. They're floating Air Force base, basically. And to not have one stationed in these troubled regions, whether it's the Middle East or China, not that there's anything going on. The world is perfectly fine since, we've had the wonderful Wizard of Oz in the White House for 8 years. But if something happens in a region, now you have to hurriedly get a carrier group up to speed, stocked, and out to sea. And then it's going to take at least a few days to get where they need to go. It's not like you can, go 70 miles an hour and really get there quickly. So there's the force projection. But to me, what's more disturbing is having these carriers in port. I looked at the home ports there, and it looks like on the East Coast you have them all stationed at Norfolk. On the West Coast, you've got some San Diego, some in Washington, and I think there's one in Japan. So there's not a lot of targets you would have to gin up for if you wanted to go in and take out these carriers while they're just sitting there in port. And if you remember at Pearl Harbor, the battleships are just sitting there. They were easy pickings. But the battleship days were actually declining by that point. And our carriers were out to sea when that attack happened. And there's a lot of talk on how that was probably planned that way to get us into World War II and still give us the critical naval forces that we needed to fight the war in the Pacific. And to have this happen right here with everything else going on, the UN resolution against Israel, and then we're looking at upcoming on the 15th, they're likely going to vote for a two-state solution, which is just going to leave the Middle East in a total mess, and not something that Trump can easily undo. So, yeah, no carriers being deployed, I think, is a pretty big deal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's almost like Barry doesn't want to leave, and he's looking for anything he can do to cause problems on the way out. And there are a lot of people who thought that he might just start a war for us. And I don't think Americans want a war. I think, well, I can speak for myself. I want to be left alone. I don't want people telling me what to do. I don't want people interfering in my life. And I think that's what many Americans want. We don't want a war. We don't want to destroy our atmosphere anymore. We don't want to destroy the surface of the earth anymore. We've done plenty of damage as it is. We need to repair it rather than make it worse. And I don't know, just look at the Middle East. Wow. We went in there and we helped them by destroying their infrastructure. The Middle East is horrible to look at in pictures. John, we come back. What's next?
We'll just pick up with our number 2 and see if we can catch up at the end.
Are we going to start with the reality of famine?
Yes, we are.
Brace yourself, class. Brace yourself for the reality of famine. And you might want to click on the link, thefinancialstateoftheunion.com, the news tab. It's shocking. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not embellishing. It is shocking. We're going to be talking about cannibals. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan's with us. Everyone all set? Cocked, locked. Here we go. Hour number 2 of USA Prepares. Captain John Regan's with us. John, this the first thing that we're going to do this hour is pretty upsetting. We're talking about famine, so please continue.
Well, in school, especially the public school, I have no idea how bad it is today, but even when I was going, you had a sanitized history. And part of that's probably reasonable. There's certain topics that are not necessarily appropriate for small children. But by the time you get to college, some of that gets taken care of, and you get a little bit deeper into other nuances of history. But I think there's some that either get lost or forgotten. And the horrors of war and communism really have kind of been left by the wayside. And all these young people we had this last election that thought socialism was great, communism is great, and capitalism is bad. Well, I think you can be sure that they have no idea what happened in the past. And this article, which was published in the Daily Mail, The Communist Cannibals, shocking images reveal the deprivation suffered by peasants forced to eat humans during the 1920s Russian famine. This was 1921-22, after World War I, and before the Depression started in the United States. And a lot of this was caused by the politicians. Lenin would seize food. It affected 30 million people, at least 5 million died. And there's a lot of pictures in here, and nobody is having a great time. And I think if you would go back before this was done to them, if you ask them, is there any situation where you would ever consider eating another human being? I would imagine it, if not 100%, nearly 100% would say, no, there's no way that could ever happen. And then this is what we have as one of the lessons of history. Of course, this isn't the only time we've got an example here in the United States. The Donner Party that was going from Missouri to California, and they hit some bad weather and had to eat some of their own. Again, if you went to the start of the journey and asked, can you imagine any situation where you would ever eat another human being? I'm sure the answers would be no. This is to me, a big preparedness lesson. We talked about if we have the grid go down, the food supply stops. Whatever is available locally will soon be exhausted. The dogs and cats and squirrels and pigeons will disappear before long, too. And around a couple of weeks after the event starts, is estimated when cannibalism will begin. So, however you want to take it, there's a good chance at some point this is our future, whether it's caused by a man-made action or through a solar CME along the lines of the Carrington event. Vincent?
John, back in the 1950s, right here in our neck of the woods in Missouri, there was a severe drought. And I've talked to some of the natives here, some of the seniors, and they say it's absolutely true that the drought was so severe that you couldn't find a squirrel because they were all hunted. You couldn't find deer. And the farmers who were trying to hold on to their cattle were cutting down trees so that the cows could eat the leaves. So I tested that right here on our farm. There was a tree that was in the wrong place, and it was a small tree. Maybe a couple inches in diameter. And I don't like cutting down live trees. But this one was in the way, and I wanted to see for myself what would happen. And we were in a drought situation a few years ago. It wasn't like the drought of the 1950s, but I cut the tree down, got the chainsaw, cut it down, and just left it in the field. The cows ate every leaf. In the 1600s, according to Wikipedia, in colonial Jamestown, colonists resorted to cannibalism during a period known as the Starving Time, from 1609 to 1610. After food supplies were diminished, some colonists began to dig up corpses for food. During this period, one man was tortured until he confessed to having killed, salted, and eaten his pregnant wife. He was burned alive as punishment. If you want to see it, it's in Wikipedia. And that's under incidents of cannibalism. And John, I think you're absolutely right. I think most people wouldn't want to do it. It would be an absolute last resort. But I can see it happening. I absolutely can.
And we've also talked about how in these types of situations that women will sell themselves for food, either for themselves or for their children. Mm-hmm. And, it's not a matter of us just sitting around making conjecture. These are things that have happened in the past, time after time. And it seems like people today are living in denial. This can't possibly happen here in America. We can have debt growing forever without consequence. Food is always going to be there. Energy is always going to be there. And when reality smacks them in the face, it's going to be a whole new world. And unlike how things were in the past, now, anybody, under 30, probably even under 40, no longer have any kind of skills that our ancestors used to have in just taking care of day-to-day life.
There's a post on the internet. I'll put a link to it. It says, and we've talked about this, John, several times. Millennials lack the basic survival skills compared to older generations. And it says here that A survey shows that millennials are missing out on practical skills such as map reading, fishing, or fishing compared to their grandparents' generation. It says more than half of young adults were unable to tie a single knot. 40% had never swum in open water. And that's despite Britain being an island nation. Unbelievable. But they can use their smartphones. That's pretty sad.
And
I
not
remember,
only that, they want to go further into technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I remember being involved with Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts and not tying. Some of the Boy Scouts would say, why are we doing this? Some of the Cub Scouts would say, why are we tying knots? I tie knots all the time. Every day. Every day I'm tying something up. And sure is a nice skill to have. But I wonder how many of the millennials know some of the skills that Cub Scouts were taught. Seriously. And what are they going to do when their smartphones are no longer powered by electricity because the grid went down? What are they going to do? Are they going to be able to think? Are they going to be able to estimate? Are they going to be able to innovate? Are they going to be able to figure out where the heck they are? Literally, figure out where they are if they're on the road and how to get back if they haven't been there before.
And
it's funny, John.
Even doing calculations is going to be quite challenging because sooner or later, every calculator you have is going to break down.
Absolutely.
And most people don't have a slide rule lying around, nor even know how to use it for simple things like multiplication and division. So you're going to be back to doing things with paper and pencil. Of course, you probably don't have much of that stored up either. So it's going to get interesting.
And seriously, one of the things that I find that young people are challenged to do is to estimate. Many of them, and I would say maybe even most of them, don't know how to estimate at all. And ask them how many ounces are in a quart, or how many ounces are in a gallon, or how many quarts are in a gallon, or how many pints are in a quart. Try it. You won't believe it. They don't know. Those of you who are grandparents and have grandchildren in school, ask them. We'll be right back. Captain John Regan, back to you.
Next up, Hated by the World. And the title on the article is One Christian Killed for Their Faith Every 6 Minutes in 2016. So that works out to 10 an hour. 24-hour day is 240. And over a week, that starts getting fairly close to 2,000 people. And what saddens me so much is you go into a church here in America, good luck on hearing anything about our brothers and sisters in the Middle East. Typically, the men are beheaded, and then the women are taken into sex slavery. And I saw one article where these women are praying that God will let them die rather than keep doing the experience that they're having. Why can't we have, at least 30 seconds of prayer for what's going on to our Christian brothers and sisters? Yeah, and, I think a part of that, of course, is that, it's not in our backyard and we don't get news of it unless you reach out to sites that cover what's going on in the world. But I think there's another factor, especially for those that are into the pre-trib rapture side of things. When I talk to people just about the financial state of the union and what's coming. I typically get those on the left that have such faith in government and technology that they don't have to worry about things. And when I talk to those on the right, they'll seem to accept things, but hey, I'm not worried because I'm going to be raptured out of here. Well, if these people aren't being raptured out, what makes you think that you're going to be raptured out just because of a financial collapse? Vincent?
Well, I met someone just like that at a bookstore many years ago, and the owner of the bookstore was talking about our expo and how this customer, this senior citizen, should consider coming to the expo. It's right down the road from where we were in Springfield, Missouri. And she said, what is this thing? What is this expo? And she said, the owner of the bookstore said, well, it's about preparedness. It's about how to prepare, what to prepare, why to prepare, and so forth. And the woman, the customer, said to the owner of the store, honey, I got all the preparedness I need right here. And she had her Bible in her arm. She said, that's all I need. I think that's what you're talking about.
And so we went through that.
She declined.
Yep.
I was going to give her a free pass to come to the expo. I offered her a free pass. And she wouldn't take it because she was prepared. She had her Bible.
Look at, again, the lessons of history in Europe, World War I, the financial hard times in between, and World War II. And it's some people who believe that the reason that Christianity was on the decline in Europe is because back then they had the same belief, I'm going to be raptured out of here. And instead, all these atrocities took place. And look at the shape of Europe now. And again, we have the lazy, ignorant, unprepared Christians today. And I know we share the same frustration. We really want people to be awake and taking care of their futures, but unfortunately, for some reason, they've got their strong delusion, and it seems to be nearly impossible to get anybody out of that mode.
Yeah, and we talked about this yesterday. Preparing, is it a dying art? And I think it's in decline. I was thinking about that today, just before the broadcast. USA prepares, but who's listening? Who's listening? I mean, we could fabricate some hype and say, "Wow, we're growing 10% a day." That's not the case. That's not the case. Not everybody's listening to the message, and I don't know how to fix it. Captain John Regan, I'm looking at the next link: Trump land versus Clinton Islands. Wow.
Yes, somebody took the map of the United States and divided it up, depending on who won the election and by how much. And Trump land, it's a lot of the country, and they call it the Clinton Archipelago. You've got the left coast, especially California. You've got some pockets from the Arizona, New Mexico, Colorado area. You got deep South Texas, which is northern Mexico. You've got an area of the United States that the blacks want a country of their own, and then you've got the East Coast all the way up north of Florida, and then you have South Florida, which is basically where New York goes to retire. And if it, that's it. And besides the starkness of what you're seeing there, I thought this is good. If you're looking for a preparedness location, check out the Clinton map and make sure that you're not in one of those areas.
You know, I'm looking at this map, John. Literally, if you look at Trump land versus, you know, the Clinton land, if you will, or the Clinton Islands, it looks to me that about 90%, maybe more, of the real estate in the United States of America is Trump land. The remaining portion, which would be 10% at the most, would be Clinton land. And if you look where I am in Missouri, there's no Clinton land around here. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And how about down where you are? Any Clinton? I don't see any. Do you?
Well, you get some pockets, and it's not represented so much on this map. You can see it on the red and blue map by county. Dallas County has gone totally insane, as has Houston Harris County. And that's basically true for the whole United States. You know, the big cities, people get more disconnected from the land, more disconnected from God, and they vote for these Democrats.
Yep, I just magnified it, and I see there's a Dallas Island, and there's a St. Louis Island, you know, St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah, yep, you're absolutely right. But, boy, there's these little islands of Clintonism are pretty far apart compared to most of the land of the United States being Trump land. That's kind of a good feeling, isn't it?
Unfortunately, the population in those areas is, they have a pretty good density there.
Mm-hmm. But it'd be really hard for them to eat without Trump land.
I think if you did a survey, most of them would tell you that, you know, food grows in grocery stores.
Yeah, it does. It does. I've seen it there. John, we've got Mike in Maryland. Mike, welcome.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. Hey,
Sure.
Listen, I'm just getting in on your show, and I was doing some stuff around the house, and I heard you mention earlier about a possible EMP attack and the consequences, or something on that order. I'm a big fan of dystopic movies. Maybe I'm a glutton for punishment, but if you want to get some kind of idea of maybe a worst-case scenario in an apocalyptic situation, check out the movie The Road. Have any of y'all ever seen that movie?
Yes.
It's quite horrific. The book is even scarier. But The Road, I mean, it's just like... And also, too, I thought I would mention this. You might want to get him as a guest. And did you read the book 1 second after?
My wife, 1 minute after?
I think it's 1 second after. It's about the EMP attack. The consequences,
yeah, my wife read
how
that.
it affects a small town in North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
The author of
My
the
wife
book.
read that.
Okay. Well, the author of the book completed his third book in the series, the trilogy, and it's called. I forget the name of it, but at any rate, it's 1 second after, and then 1 day after something, the third one. But he was on Coast to Coast last night. But you might want to get him as a guest, and it's pretty interesting. You know,
Okay.
you should make for a good guest.
Sure.
But I just thought
Sure. You know, by the way, those are the kinds of scenarios that we talk about here. We talk about the supply chain disruption. We talk about the civil unrest. We talk about each person out for him or herself and how long it's going to take and the supplies that you need to protect yourself from starvation. And it's a difficult proposition, and it's almost impossible to do if you live in the city. Would you agree with that, Mike?
Oh yeah, it's extremely difficult. You need and you can't be a lone wolf either. You need to get up with a survival community of several dozen families where you got each other's back, and you can guard each other's property. And it's not the kind of thing to take lightly and think that somehow it's going to blow over after a few weeks or a couple months.
You know, when you say get together, build a village of several dozen families, maybe it's darn near impossible. I've never been able to do it, and John Regan has experience with this as well. I got to tell you that after over 5 years of having a weekly meetup, not monthly, not annually, weekly meetups for over 5 years, I've found that it's absolutely impossible to get people to work together in a real situation. They'll talk about it. They'll talk about, yeah, we're all in this together and we'll help each other. But when it comes time to really helping each other, you look around and you're the only one standing there. I'm very serious about that. And I don't know what it is.
Family.
Well, yeah, now maybe you can depend on family. But I can tell you it's very, very difficult to have people honor their commitments. John Regan, do you have any comments on this?
I agree with everything that's been said. It is very, very difficult. And unfortunately, it's one of those things like demographics. You can't just jump in and get things going. If you want to start raising food and you go out and buy some property, it's going to take you at least a year to get that ramped up into a farm. And that's not counting all the skills you're going to need to learn to produce the food. Quite challenging.
So Mike, let's say you're a really good mechanic and you understand machinery. And you understand machinery better than anyone in your area. 1 second after, you will have lots of friends. And they will all want something from you. They'll want you to fix all their problems. And I'm sure that you would be able to do that. But the question is, while you're fixing all their things, what are they doing to help you? And the answer is probably very little. So the equation would be really skewed to their benefit versus being, an equal relationship where, you do things for them, they do things for you. You're all in it together. You're working as a village. And I can tell you that even in Europe, where a village had been built, that village came apart because of individual greed. I can tell you it happened. I know the story. And if one of our instructors decides to come on the air with me and talk about how that happened, how it was built, and how it came apart, we can do that. I'm not going to mention his name or the exact scenario, but I know that a lot of effort went into building a village, and it came apart. It came apart by what I call individual greed. And that's a problem.
It's going to be tough.
Yeah. It's going to be tough. People want things for free. So whoever can offer the most free stuff wins. It's like the two people who are running for class president, in the elementary school. And one says, we want to work together with our teachers. We want to have some input into what we learn. We want to have better educational opportunities. And then the other one says, free ice cream. Everybody gets free ice cream. And who wins? The gal who offers free ice cream.
Sure.
That's the way it works. It's sad.
We got a welfare mentality in this country.
Yeah, we do. We do. And, you're saying that people think that they are owed something. Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. And I can tell you that I've got a neighbor who's a great neighbor. And he comes over unannounced. He just shows up. Sometimes he calls and he'll say, I'm coming over. And then we have a cup of coffee and we share things. If we have an excess of things that we grow in our garden, we send them his way. If he has an excess, he sends it our way. If If he needs help with some of his machinery, we help him. If we need help, he helps us. He's great. It really works. And no one is saying, listen, I'll help you, but let's see, how much that's going to be $10. Nobody does that. It's never occurred to us. It's never occurred to him. We just help each other because we know going down the road is going to be pretty rough. And we're going to need each other. And we like each other. And we have similar values. But not everybody's like that. Mike, thank you so much for your call.
Thank you.
Captain John Regan, and I'll be right back. Class, you know, in case you're wondering about the commercials and what I do during commercials, I'm usually busy picking up the phone and talking to instructors and so forth. And so, as recommended, I called William R. Forston, the author of 1 Second After. I called his office, and the message is, it looks like he's going to be calling me back, and we're going to see if we can get him on the air. So I take your suggestions very, very seriously, and I try to act upon them immediately. Kyle in Montana, welcome.
Hey, Happy New Year, guys.
Hey, same to you. Thank you.
I was going to mention the other book that gentleman was trying to come up with is Lights Out, but there is another series that is just excellent. We like it a lot. It's called 299 Days, and the series is probably 12 books long, something along that line. The author's name is Glenn Tate, but it's called 299 Days, and it basically goes from an EMP collapse to where there is some semblance of order in a regional area. Mm-hmm. So it is something else you might want to check out.
I will follow up.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just, just an idea for people if they hear about it and want to get it. My wife has the whole series. It's really good. I haven't got through all of them yet, but I really like it. The first one is excellent. But the other thing I was just going to mention real quick, Vince, and you probably already thought of this, but I thought I'd throw it out there too. You know, before I'd spend $1,500 on an 80-gallon hot water tank, I'd put in a on-demand system for $1,500, and then you're done.
Well, I would do that too, Kyle. The only thing is, I heat our hot water with our outdoor wood furnace. So the only thing that I can think of is a storage tank. So what I do is I have a heat exchanger. Hot water comes in from outside the outdoor wood furnace, comes in, goes through a heat exchanger, which heats the 80 gallons of hot water. So I really don't need gas. I really don't need electricity to heat the hot water. What I really need is a storage tank.
I got you. All right. Okay. Well, I just didn't. I was just thinking about your situation, and we have hot water tanks now, but at the farm where we used to live, we had an on-demand. It was an Aquastar, and at the time it was only like $350 for an on-demand hot water heater, and it was extremely efficient. But Bosch bought them out and then like doubled or tripled the price. So anyway, I'll let John get to maybe his last statement there, but I just wanted to call and tell you guys those things, and I hope you have a great year, Vince. I just love hearing you on the radio, and you too, John. I'll talk to John here in a little while. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much, Kyle.
Bye-bye.
John Regan?
Well, let me take the last one from hour one. This won't help demographics.
I just, I don't hear
We've
John
got
Regan.
a French woman.
Okay.
I'm here.
Good.
We got a French woman that did a 3D printed robot herself, and now she wants to marry it.
Yeah.
So
and
she describes herself as a proud robosexual.
yeah. Oh, and what's up with that? I mean, this woman is in love with a machine. And I've been thinking about that. How's that possible? How is it possible that this that a person could love a machine more than another person. It sounds like this woman's defective to me. What do you think?
Well, there are certain advantages. You know, the robot never leaves the toilet seat up. No underwear strewn around the floor.
Yeah. What about batteries? You know, this thing's got to be plugged in sometime. It's either have to have batteries or a charger or replaceable batteries. And what happens when there are no batteries? What happens when there's lights out? This thing is just going to be a pile of parts. How's that relationship going to work? Boy, people are nuts. John, thanks so much for being with us. Class, above all, honesty and integrity. What happens next is up to you.